They in fact did do a better job. I was here for that.
Yeah.
So I have been brought in not as a social studies teacher or even as a teacher here at Matanzas. I've been brought in essentially to talk about the other side of my life and what I do beyond the parameters of 7 a.m. and 2:15 p.m. during the weekdays. And that is that I am a professional entertainer in a number of different things, including a lot in sports. And so a couple of jobs that I have in sports, I am a ring announcer. So I'm an announcer of varying types, but I do a lot of ring announcing, emceeing, so a master of ceremonies, so a lot of hosting different events and sporting contests, and also a commentator. And that is really the primary reason that I'm brought in here today. Now, that is probably the area that is still the newest for me professionally, because I did the others first and beforehand, but it is one that I have also picked up along the way and have an opportunity to do quite frequently. I am an announcer and commentator, specifically in professional wrestling. Now, I'm an announcer in multiple sports, but in pro wrestling is where I do the commentary, because it's the area that I have the most knowledge. I've been a big fan since I was like 11 years old. That's when wrestling got really cool all of a sudden. Yes, there was a time. Any wrestling fans or any lapsed wrestling fans, perhaps earlier in your life, y'all were running around with John Cena wristbands? Put the hand up loud and proud. Yeah, don't be afraid, fellas. Don't be afraid. Thank you. It's okay. You know what? It's still cool. I'm 30 years old. I'm a married man, and I still love professional wrestling. I don't let anybody tell you any different. It's a great form of entertainment, and these guys are really world-class athletes, guys and girls, mind you. It's a lot of fun, and it's an area I never imagined I'd be in. When I was, in your seats once upon a time as a high school student myself, I never imagined some of the things that I would go on to do professionally in some capacity in my life, but some of the things I've picked up along the way while I was in school and through other pursuits in my life and through like weird projects and things I've done as a student have led me down some interesting roads, including the roads to what I do now. So I'll lead off by telling you that is that life is funny and you never know where it will take you. Literally, this part of my career path, I spoke into existence. In fact, about 3.5 years ago, Mrs. Grafer and I were sitting down and we were just kind of discussing plans we have for our future and goals and things that we'd like to do. And we literally wrote down goals that we wanted to accomplish. Some of them was some things around the house. Some of them were, goals for us as a couple. Some of them for us as homeowners, and some of us were as professionally. Her wanting to do more with baking was on that list, which is something that she's doing more of. And I wrote down at that time that I wanted to begin announcing in wrestling and sports, and I had no idea how or why. I literally just said it. And wrote it down. Had no idea how or why. Like, how does one even get into that? Like, don't you have to go to school for that? I mean, the answer is usually yes. There are schools, there are ways of training for this, but there's other ways in as well. And so 3 years ago this week, I got my first opportunity. A professional wrestling school that was based out of Daytona Beach at the time put something up that they were looking for a new ring announcer. Someone needed to be, they said the requirements were, you need to be available on Saturday nights and you can't suck. I was like, I think I can do that. Definitely available Saturdays. I'm not sure about the second part, but we're gonna roll with it. And so I sent in some stuff. I got a chance to come try out, and lo and behold, I was actually pretty good at it. So they had me come back. Now I had some advantages. I mean, I'd already been a college professor. I was already a teacher for some years. I also was already hosting trivia shows at night. And these are skills that, you just kind of picked up. And so being a good reader and things that I learned while I was in school, when I was in college and even in high school, one of the strongest things I ever got to do was whenever we had a presentation. I was good at papers and that stuff too, but I didn't love papers. But when it came to presentations, I really had a good idea of what to do and kind of, entertain the class and entertain the teacher, who's really who you want to entertain because they're the ones that give you a grade. and move that along. And those are things that I picked up while I was a student. And you don't always realize sometimes the things that you might get from projects or experiences. And what we're looking at today is we're trying to find ways to show the parallels between what you're being asked to do in this class, which is essentially provide commentary on a piece of writing that, in this case, you guys have written yourselves, but you could provide commentary on anything. You could provide commentary on some Edgar Allan Poe poems. You could provide commentary on some novel that you had to read. What's the most recent thing you guys went over?
Or just nothing interesting.
Well, but you could analyze it and go through and talk about some of the details and figure out why the author said this and why he did that. And he might have put some of these references in here because they're all based out of Pennsylvania, which is where he's born and raised. And those could all be things that are in your commentary discussing it. And that's really not that different than what I get to do, at least in my role as a commentator. So I get to do a couple different things. As a host, I've gotten to work in front of crowds of 9,000 people in the arena in Jacksonville. And I also have an opportunity alongside my broadcast partner, that's my buddy Sticks, but he and I do commentary for a wrestling program called Fighting Evolution Wrestling that is based out of Miami, Florida. And he and I are the two commentators there. And actually, we have shows that air every Saturday night. You can get them on YouTube and Fighting Evolution Wrestling's YouTube channel. We've got new episodes all the way up through mid-February, and we're heading down this weekend to record 4 more episodes of TV. So I'll be in Miami on Sunday to do that. But school skills, things that I've picked up in my work in academia, both as a student and then later as a teacher, have helped me to make that transition. And not everything you do in terms of commentary might be your favorite thing to do. You might not love every piece of literature that you have to analyze, but you might get to do some good ones. There are people, I'm sure, that love doing golf commentary. They have commentators on golf, right? And here comes Tiger Woods. He's up for the putt. It's about a 15-yard putt right now. And there he goes. There's the stroke. It's going. And look at that. He made it. And some people, I guess, like that. That's probably not exciting enough for me. I take things, the sports I'm involved in are a little bit more energetic. But some of the skills necessary to do both jobs, regardless of the fact that one is golf, the other is professional wrestling. One of them is very bland and straight and narrow, and the other is as colorful and crazy as can be. Some of those same skills apply, and some of the skills that you'll be using to analyze your own written works also can apply. Now, in terms of the roles of commentators, typically you have more than one commentator at a table. The examples I'm going to give you actually today are going to be solo examples. So I'll show you one that's pre-recorded, one that I did about a year and a half ago, and then I will actually call a match for you live as it's happening and provide commentary as we look at it from here. So I'll just sit in the chair and call the commentary. But there are typically 2 roles within the world of commentary. There's a play-by-play commentator and a color commentator. If you're flying solo, you get to do a little bit of both. But whenever Sticks and I have a chance to do it, we have kind of gravitated and specialized in our 2 roles. I am typically the play-by-play guy. I'm the one calling the who and the what. Here's what's happening now. And he's the color commentator. He's the why and the how. So I'm who, what, he's why, how. You know, same thing in writing. Who, what, when, where, why, how, all that. I'm more of the, hey, who, what, when. He's why, how. I maybe do some of the where. But nevertheless, our roles are different and our jobs are to kind of bounce off of one another. But if you have to call it solo, like you're doing as a solo commentator on these works, well, then you're going to be pulling all of this in as a solo act. But these things I've gotten to do in cages and boxing rings and wrestling rings, they've been a lot of fun. And I'm glad I've had some of the experiences as a student. And really, the purpose of sports commentary and any commentary is to provide otherwise inaccessible information to viewers. In the sense when we're talking sports commentary, they're viewing this in a timely manner so as to enhance their viewing experience. So when they're looking at the product itself, it's like you can tell what's going on. If you watch sports, you can see the game and make sense of it all, right? Who here has ever been to a live sporting event? What have you guys gone to? What kind of sporting events have you gone to? Soccer. So like, have you gone to like Logan's? Have you gone down to like Orlando City and seen that? Okay, so you've seen in Orlando. So when you sit in the stands and watch the Orlando City soccer team go, do you have any commentary? Do you have any real cues or clues as to what's going on? No, it's just literally watching the product. And if you know what you're looking for, you can have fun with that. I mean, the experience of the live crowd is definitely different than the experience of either a radio audience or a television audience. Television audience really gets the best overall packaged product when you think about it, because not only are they able to see it and they've got the best vantage points, especially now with all these beautiful HD cameras, but they also get a chance to hear what's going on. They get all those insights from the commentators who are able to provide some information that might not otherwise be all that accessible. In fact, I think it's a fun example. I didn't get to see it yesterday because we were, the birthday celebration for Mrs. Grayford just continues and parties on all day, every day for the next month. So make sure you guys sing to her every day until February.
Yeah.
So I didn't get a chance to see any of the games yesterday, but what was the most, you probably heard about it even if you're not a sports person. Something really interesting happened yesterday with one of the games that has nothing to do with the sport itself. It's about where it was broadcast. One of the games was broadcast on Nickelodeon. Yes, that Nickelodeon. And what did they do? Did you get a chance to see it? Did anybody watch that broadcast? No, nobody. I heard they had like kids commentating and like just kind of talking and keeping it very bare bones, simple. Like I want to go and watch this just to get this experience. I think they added all kinds of other graphics and I think at the end of the game, one of the coaches, instead of dumping Gatorade like they typically do, they slimed him like old school Nickelodeon style. They actually like poured slime on him, which, you know, again, there's money tied up in this and sport. Like you have to pay a lot of money to air an NFL football game. So there's definitely sponsorships and all that. That's a lesson for a different class for another day. But they had commentary for little kids. Cause again, this was meant to be for like, bring this to a younger audience. They might not understand Joe Buck and Troy Aikman and the way they analyze the game and talk about, well, when the quarterback is in the pocket and he drops back and the blitz and this, and you're like, like your heads explode. You don't really understand what all those terms mean. You watch it enough over years, you might kind of get some context and be like, okay, the blitz is like they rush through here. Now they're going after the quarterback directly instead of worrying about the receivers. Now I'm starting to understand what these terms are. They had a whole different audience, so they had a whole different commentary style. But that's what commentary is meant to do, to give viewers some information to enhance their viewing experience. Like you could just watch it and get the experience of watching it, but you also could probably benefit from having some commentators there who can shed some light and shed some information on what it is that you're watching. Now, if you want to be a good commentator, a couple skills that really are necessary, I would say. And these are skills that, whether you know it or not, you are harnessing now as students in school. You might not think so, but if you ever need these things later, you'll be like, I remember I did this one thing that one time back at school, and I'm really glad I did, because like that actually was like almost a form of training for this. But here are some of the skills necessary for good sports commentary. Number one, knowledge of the sport, the teams that are playing, and their players. And there's a reason I do professional wrestling and nothing else. Now, I can ring announce for boxing and MMA, but I don't really know a whole lot about those sports beyond that. And I don't mind sharing that with you. Like, I don't know all of the holds, all the movements. I don't even know all the athletes involved. Like, I literally should be like, oh, that's so-and-so. I'm like, oh, that's great. I don't know who it is, but I'm here to work. But in wrestling, I'm pretty well versed. I've been watching it since I was 11 years old. I got in it because The Undertaker was on top, and that's when Stone Cold Steve Austin was making his first run at the WWF Championship, and that's when The Rock came in. And man, it was as exciting a time in wrestling as it was. And I've been hooked since I was 11 years old, and I carried it with me even into adulthood. I've been watching consistently every Monday night as much as I can for over 20 years now. And just because you'll watch something for 20 years doesn't make you an expert, so don't think that that translates. But I have developed some knowledge from that. I've also read a lot about it. I did presentations on pro wrestling in my master's degree program in college as a student.
And your speech.
And I did a speech a couple of years ago, like a TED style speech, a TED Talk kind of style speech in Daytona Beach in front of an audience of like 300 or 400 people, and I picked this subject to do it on, which these are very much like school projects. I never had to do them, but I did them and they wound up actually benefiting me later. But having some knowledge of the sport, the teams and their players, so being able to talk about those. This part, in terms of the actual speaking component, it's a little different in writing, but the ability to quickly summarize what's happening during the game. You've got to be quick on your feet, and you've got to be good with words and good with communicating. And that's really, I think, the hardest part of this, because even people who go to school, like people can enroll in college and they can go to the whatever school of broadcasting, but if they can't quickly summarize what's happening during the game, there is only so much teaching that any teacher can do to help them be better at that. So some of this is like, you've got to have that innate ability when it comes to the speaking and communicating component. Some of it can be taught, and even as someone that has it, you still need to work on it and hone it in practice, because practice is what enhances everything. But that part, I think, of all of these components is a skill that I think is kind of inherent. Lucky for you, when it comes to doing this when writing, it's not quite as necessary because you've got some time. It's not live. You can go back, you can edit it. Like when I'm speaking into a microphone, whatever's out in the world, good or bad or ugly, is what's out there, and you can't get it back. There's the ability to offer commentary on the game match itself, so to be able to kind of break things down as they're occurring. And of course, if you're in a booth with someone, your ability to banter with your on-air colleagues. That's also something kind of difficult to do. Anybody that watches sports, I think Joe Buck and Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are typically paired up. Yes, it's been a while since I've watched pro football, to be honest. Just because she doesn't like it, and we don't,
No boring.
So I'm not allowed to put it on. It's okay. You fellas will get married someday. You'll understand. Happy wife, happy life. But they've got pretty good rhythm and chemistry together. And that's why they can get paid big bucks to sit there and talk to one another across those big games on the Fox network, because they have the ability to play off one another. I've gotten to sit in a booth with not a ton of people, but with a few different people. And it's difficult because even if two people are good at their job, sometimes it's tough to kind of know the pacing and the rhythm that people speak and what they like to say and when they like to come in. That's why I really like working with the guy I usually work with, because he and I have worked together on literally over 100 shows. We've called hundreds of matches together. We don't need to practice or talk about anything. We can kind of get in, we do our notes, we do our homework before we sit down typically, and then we get to work. We know when the other guy is going to talk, when the other guy is going to stop. We don't step on each other's toes all that much because we've developed some chemistry and rhythm, and that's through practice and rehearsal. These are things, again, you get better at all this stuff, just like you get better at writing. You'll continue to get better at writing in school the more that you do it. It's not always fun, and I've had to call some matches that have not been fun to call because they're really boring. Not every one of them is good, but you can get better, and that practice will help you so that you can go on. This guy actually is in AEW right now in front of like 1 million people every week on TNT, and this is less than a year ago. So this journey that I've been on for the last 3 years has definitely brought me some interesting places, and it's got early beginnings. Heck, I attribute all this really back to my experience in ROTC when I was in high school, because that was the first time that I was ever pulled out of a group and told to lead people and yell in front of an audience. And now I do that for money. And I learned that in high school. So I'm going to show you 2 different examples now. Okay. Brandon says he doesn't think Joe knows what he's talking about. I got news for you, and his bank account has news for you, Brandon. Dude knows what he's talking about. He really, really does. I think Joe Buck doesn't get enough credit. Joe Buck is one of those guys that it's really fun for everybody to dump on him and make fun of him. And I don't really know why that is, because the guy, his voice is smooth as butter. The guy sounds good. That's an important part too, and you can't really teach that either. But the guy is smooth. He's good. His dad was good too, so he comes from a little bit of lineage. But he also, I think, does a great job calling things. He's got a good personality. He's a good straight play-by-play guy. A lot of people like to get on his case. I don't know why. Probably because he's so popular and has so much money, and it's just kind of fun to do. The internet loves that sort of thing. But, that's how that goes. All right. So I'm going to show you two examples here. This one, the first one, is from a tryout match that I did. And these two guys in the ring were trying out too. We were up in Brooklyn, New York at the wrestling promotion known as Evolve. And Evolve is actually like one of the farm system wrestling promotions for the WWE. So I had a chance to go up and do some work in front of some of their producers and also with other talent who were doing this. So this is an example of solo work that I have been able to do. And then I'll do a match after this live for you. We'll just watch it and I'll do it, the commentary here. Okay. So you get a chance to see some examples. Trust me, Jeremiah, Brandon, we all got bloopers and we don't put those in our reels for a reason. They happen. All right, let me throw this up on the old big screen. This is a 4-minute match, and you'll learn everything from, hopefully, from the commentator. Who happens to be me.
You all are now looking at the best professional wrestler in this ring. Exactly.
Welcome back to the WWN tryout right here live from Brooklyn, New York, ladies and gentlemen. This is the young professor, and those words were spoken by the man known as VIP, Vincent Impact Pride. He prides himself on the fact that he's the youngest person to wrestle for the Impact World title at the ripe old age of 16 years old. He is 18 years old now, and he's looking to impress this afternoon against the man that he currently is in control with a wrist lock, and that's the silencer, Tahir James. Tahir now with a side headlock. Tahir from Hillside, New Jersey, residing in the Garden State. He is a trifecta athlete, professional wrestler. He's got a high school football background, an amateur wrestling background, and he also has been a bodybuilder. Right now, not looking much like a bodybuilder, trying to show some agility, but so far outmatched by Vincent Impact Pride, who hails from Las Vegas, Nevada. VIP driving the shoulder into the midsection. Referee breaks it up, gives Tahir an opportunity to breathe, shoving VIP away. Tahir is not in a good spot right now. Look at the confidence from Vincent Impact Pride. This young man is so brash. He's jaw-jacking with the crowd, takes his eye off the ball. Tahir gets a shot in, but VIP not to be counted out just yet. Back in control, hooks him up. Nice vertical suplex. Goes for the cover. And a near fall for VIP. Doesn't seem too concerned by the fact that his opponent still has some fight left in him. Grabbing his hair, just looking to embarrass him. VIP has a lot to say to our audience here in Brooklyn, New York. A little less conversation, a little more action. Yes, that's an Elvis and a Las Vegas reference, folks. VIP still in control as that side headlock locked in deep, but Tahir, he is trying to get back to that vertical base, back on his feet, elbows to the midsection, breaks away off the ropes. Over sunset flip, gets some cover, and a near fall. Oh, the silencer goes down hard on that clothesline. VIP with another near fall.
Yeah, near fall, I heard that.
Chimed in on what I'm doing over here. Needs to keep his eye on the ball because silencer said, here James is a dangerous man, and with that opportunity to breathe, he nails that back elbow. Briefly incapacitating VIP, hanging onto the ropes. Oh, big forearm shot, but gets swept out from under him. His leg goes from VIP. VIP back in control, but Tahir James launches him away. VIP not looking to let up. You got to give it to this young man. Really doing all he can to show off all the athletic tools that and all the things that only an 18-year-old can do. But look at that drop kick. Beautiful height. Takes him down with a swing blade. And to here, James has a second win. Knocks away the strike attempt. Looked like he was going for a neck breaker. Gets taken over. That snapper didn't connect, but that knee does. And to here, James goes for the cover. 2 and 3. Just like that, quick as a hiccup, folks, the silencer to here, James is your winner.
Done live. Heck, I did that sitting with WWE superstars sitting next to me that I didn't even realize, and they're like listening to what I'm doing and watching them to give us feedback. Nervous. It's definitely intimidating and scary. But opportunity to do it there. Now, I'm not going to sit here. I mean, I think that's an okay example. There's a few things in there that I can listen to and be like, that could have been better. Shouldn't have said that. Shouldn't have done this. But good enough working example of a solo commentary job. You guys want to watch another match and have me do it live? And this way you get a chance to see and hear how thoughts kind of happen on the fly as we're taking it all in. I picked a match here that does not already have commentary on it. And it's between two guys that I have worked with before. So at least I know who they are. I've seen their stuff. I know what their deal is. And I'm familiar with the promotion. So I don't have all the information that I might like to have completely. But I will say this. These two guys that are in this match, super talented, really exciting to watch. They put on some great matches. I'll tell you more, I guess, about them as I go through my thing. But this one is fun. So I'll give you a live example of some live commentary.
And then you guys are going to get to do your own live commentary, like, starting tomorrow. You'll record yourself and sit up here just like he's doing, but with your essay. Yeah. Why do you think I brought him in here to show you how this works?
Yeah.
Now you guys are going to do it.
I'm great at commentary.
Yes.
We get it.
Yeah. You guys are going to get to read and commentate off your own stuff. I'm going to throw it up on the board, and you guys are going to do the commentary in front of everybody. Zayd can't wait. See? You excited? I do it. Nettis will be the first one. Right, Nettis?
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you for volunteering.
All right. I'll let the ring announcer do his thing, and then I'll come in after. Here we go.
See, we can even have promos for you guys, like, or like cut you in like this, like entrances. Yeah, we can have Nettis wear outfits, something similar, maybe.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Nerd Street Pro Wrestling. We have an exciting match on tap for you right here and right now. You're looking at the first competitor to make his way down that aisle. He is one half of the tag team known as the Jim Nasty Boys. He's got a whole lot of gold with him here today. And he is going to be going up against one of the most talented wrestlers in the game today.
I see the style choices, the fashion.
Treehouse Lee, the Rad Boy Ballerina, the Juilliard Jaguar. Truly one of the most stylistically prolific athletes in all of professional wrestling around the world. He is an actual attendee of the Juilliard School, remarkably artistic in multiple areas, including inside the squared circle. When he gets on that canvas, that is where some of his finest artwork gets displayed. Hailing from New York City's Treehouse Lee is in there, and he is ready to go, ready to impress against his larger opponent in Timmy Lou Retton. Timmy Lou Retton, a gymnastics background for him. This is going to be an interesting stylistic difference between these two. However, I've had an opportunity to call matches between them before, and I can tell you, before this thing even gets started, that these two are going to put on a show here today. Jimmy Lou extending his hand. Very nice. A little bit of sportsmanship before we kick this off. I don't expect sportsmanship to be necessarily the way of the day. Both these men looking to pick up a big victory here this afternoon. And Timmy Lou Retton showed a little bit of Olympic-style wrestling prowess, and Treehouse Lee showed a little bit of his own. Timmy getting that low stance, perhaps looking for a single leg takedown, looking for a shoot. Tree backing up. There goes Timmy. He shoots the leg, takes him down. Almost had his shoulder, almost went for a cover, and now Timmy Lou trying to take down the Treehouse Lee actually gets a front face headlock. Timmy Lou Retton trying to reposition himself and manages to ground Treehouse Lee. A little bit of chain wrestling to start here this afternoon. Not what I had expected from these two athletes, but as they continue to try to feel each other out and get an early advantage, trying to perhaps slow one another down. And right now, Treehouse Lee widening his stance, trying to maintain control with that side headlock. Timmy Lou with cover. Treehouse Lee hangs on. Timmy Lou now getting back to a vertical base up on both legs now. Treehouse hanging on, but look at this, those big arms of Timmy Lou Retton squeezing the rib cage of the Rad Boy ballerina. Tony Seville, referee this afternoon, going to have his hands full here, trying to back off from there. Treehouse Lee hangs on. Timmy Lou reconnects that waistlock, wrenching on the rib cage of Treehouse Lee. Tree trying to break it, goes behind his waistlock with no schoolboy. Almost picked him up there with a 3-count near fall. And both men repositioning, perhaps strategizing for what their offense is going to look like moving forward. Timmy Lou right now looks like maybe part of that cover for his knee pad, give him a little bit of trouble, eliminated out of the equation so he can be at his absolute best. Both men circling each other once again. A little bit of trepidation now. See, Timmy Lou, but look at this, takes him down. There's that athleticism we talked about. Waistlock, Treehouse Lee, face first into the mat. Tree moves his legs 180 degrees, trying to get back up, gets to his feet, trying to break the wrist control. And get behind. Oh, Timmy Lou went for a clothesline there, trying to take his head off. Treehouse Lee ducks, he gets a waistlock of his own. Wait a minute. Went for a spinning heel kick, gets caught with a power bomb. Only 2. This match continues. A little bit of frustration there. You see it on the face of Timmy Lou Retton. A tremendous power move. Nearly turning Treehouse Lee inside out. Timmy Lou back to his feet now. Now this could prove to be a mistake. Treehouse being given the opportunity to get back to his feet, but here comes Timmy Lou, cartwheel, went for a splash in the corner, swing and a miss. Here comes Treehouse Lee, big kick to the midsection, spinning heel kick. There's that style. He goes up, a little bit of dirty dancing into a DDT. Treehouse Lee looking to put him away. But Timmy Lou Retton gets that left shoulder up at 2 7/8. That was low. Treehouse Lee not looking to give Timmy Lou an opportunity to get back to his feet, reposition him. Treehouse Lee now head to the top rope. We're going to go to the high red district. But Timmy Lou hanging on here, grabs his leg. Not looking to let the Rad Boy ballerina make his way up top. Forearm shot from Timmy Lou Retton. He's hooking him up. He's got both arms hooked. He might be looking for perhaps an overhead belly-to-belly suplex. Treehouse Lee with a headbutt right into the sternum, knocking the wind out of Timmy Lou. Timmy Lou goes down hard. Tree is just absolutely exhausted right now. Oh, wait a minute, swing and a miss. Shoots an elbow to the midsection, repositions him up, he goes. Wait a minute, gets caught with another power bomb. It looked like he was going for another spinning heel kick, this time from the top, and he gets dumped right on his noggin. Treehouse Lee went down hard. Timmy Lou now, the big man is heading up top. The tumbling Titan, Timmy Lou Redden. It looks like he's gonna fly. Moonsault. Nobody home. Here comes Treehouse Lee. He's got him hooked at that cradle. Shoulders down, and he gets him. Wow. Just one mistake is all it takes to turn the tables in a heartbeat. Timmy Lou Redden looked like he had this one in the bag after that power bomb, but that big air moonsault, swinging and missing, gives Treehouse Lee the opportunity to roll up his opponent and pick up a big victory here today at Nerd Street Wrestling. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back with more live professional wrestling action here from Nerd Street.
I'm sure there was more that happened at the event that I'm not aware of. That
Okay. Well, give me
the Wasteland Warrior Leon Scott would be out here.
put it in
A big boy, by the way.
We'll have to get up on the tower and see the little.
Now, that match is on YouTube right now, and you can watch it without commentary, and that's fine. Those two guys are super talented. They told a story in that ring. They don't need me. They don't. But my job here today, at least in front of you, and what my job is when they actually pay me to come in and do this, is to enhance the overall impression. So these guys tell the stories, but my job is to provide the soundtrack, provide a little bit more information. You guys didn't know that Timmy Lou is an actual gymnast, that he's got a tag team known as the Gymnasty Boys. You don't know that Treehouse Lee actually went to Juilliard. He's from New York City, super stylish. He's seen all over the world. But a commentator can provide that and bring it to you. And that's what it is. So your job is to provide insight into the writing and the pieces that you need to analyze as part of your class. Yes, it's a little different, and one might be slightly more exciting than the other. I mean,
You're gonna have to talk.
I think she's looking for written commentary as opposed to auditory commentary. But nevertheless,
It's fine. You guys can talk
That's
more. I
it.
told you. We'll record you. You can sit up here. You can do your own commentary. And we can just all watch you.
any questions for me? Do you see, I mean, potentially any of the parallels? This is kind of a good way to show a few that you might find in analyzing writing as opposed to analyzing pro wrestling.
I mean, it's the same thing. Like you guys were doing like a think aloud, like you did, but with your paper. And of course, it's not as fun because you're not calling moves. But you guys are going to be calling like, hey, I chose this type of figurative language to enhance whatever, or this vocabulary word to, you know, really hit home on this meaning. So you guys are going to be doing that. You're just not, you're not doing a live version, but you're doing like a writing, like a live writing version of that.
And that's like color commentary. That's the why, right? The why and the how. That's what you're doing there on that side of it.
So now you guys are all experts. And the next time I have you do this, I'm going to as a test grade.
I'm about experts.
Yeah.
What? You know who's doing the commentary? Joel.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, no.
I have no idea.
Hi, Joel.
He's a, but does anyone have any other questions for Mr. Gray?
Yeah, anything.
You guys can ask whatever.
You could even, any questions in my world of sports, anything like that?
You guys can pretend like.
What's the weirdest sport you've ever commentated?
So I've only done commentary for wrestling, but the weirdest event I've gotten to host and do like intros for, it wasn't even a sport. I was brought out to introduce artists for a paint off on the roof of the Hard Rock in Daytona. They saw my sports announcing work and like, hey, you're really good. We want you to come do this for artists when they paint against each other. I was like, okay, whatever, we'll do that.
And you did the fireman like. The
Yeah, I also, well, I turned it into that I got hired to DJ that event, but I wound up kind of hosting it, turning it more sportsmanlike for a pumper pull in DeLand, where teams of 10 people would have to pull a fire truck like 75 feet. So I got a chance to like be the host and MC and introduce like all the teams as they would come out and yell and scream and play good music as they pulled a truck 75 feet down this street. It's weird stuff.
Clearly, my life and my teaching is way more exciting than his. Just remember that. I'm sorry, what?
She's Baker to the stars. What are you
Yeah,
talking
no
about?
way. Step up my game. You guys need to step up y'all's game in this commentary world.
See, who do you enjoy working with the most? Is a question from Brandon. There's a lot of groups I like working with. But I've gotten to work with some cool people. I've gotten to work with some former WWE superstars. Actually, just this past weekend, I worked with Elijah Burke, who was in WWE and is the current NWA TV champion. I worked with JTG, who used to be in a tag team known as Crime Time on WWE, former WWE tag champ. I've worked with the Headbangers, who were WWE tag champions back when I was a kid. Like, I had toys of them, and then I worked with them in a ring. That was really cool for me. I've worked with some of the guys that used to run with Ric Flair. I stood in a ring with Jake the Snake Roberts and gotten to interview him in front of a crowd of a couple hundred people. So I've had some really cool opportunities to work with some really incredible people, and it's been awesome. It's just a cool experience. Trying to make it, trying to do it.
Maybe.
Easy to be a teacher by day and work wrestling and stuff by
So the
night.
goal is someday he'll be famous, and then you guys can just like watch him on TV, and then you won't have to worry about. You guys can just email me stuff, and by association, I'll just be awesome and also retired hopefully, and you guys can just also see me on the sidelines just cheering him on.
Or Megan, I tell you what, I put thousands and thousands and thousands of miles on my car every month to make these towns and make these shows. And some of them pay okay, some of them don't pay very much. You got to pay your dues, you got to work hard, and that's in anything that you do in life. Don't expect to walk out of school and be able to make a lot of money. You got to grind, you got to hustle, and you got to outwork everybody. It's not always about talent, it's about work ethic. Do the work.
Tell them how much you got paid for Go Wrestling.
Zero.
Majority.
$0.
$0.
I worked over 100 shows there and worked $0. You know why I get brought places now and get paid a lot more than $0? Practice and practice. And I got to work in front of a live audience, and I had no real direction. So I was kind of sink or swim. I had to learn my craft on my own, and I was given a lot of opportunities and insights so that I could do that and get better. And it paid off. It was almost, I looked at it like an apprenticeship, because that's what it was. It helped me get better at this.
So, okay, so recording starts tomorrow. Have a song that you guys want to enter the classroom with. Have an outfit. Get ready. Get ready for your commentary.
Brandon said, can we have an EOC on this instead?
Yes, Brandon, that would be fabulous. All right, bye, remote. You guys are free to go. See you guys.
Bye, everybody. Have a good one. Thank you.
For my coffee and for donuts. Thank you, Mr. Raper, for obliging.
You're welcome, Mrs. Graper. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Teaching